Welcome to the Panic Button, everyone. I'm Nina.
I am Jess E. Welcome.
Today we're reacting to an Amala Epinobi video where she talks about the NBA stars who decided they wanted to be a part of the WNBA, so they're identifying as women.
We knew it was going to happen.
Only a matter of time.
I just had a baby, right? But I have to be back to make this video. I had to react to this. We have former NBA player Inez Cantor Freedom coming forward and saying, I'd like to be a WNBA prospect. The guidelines would allow me to do so because I can self-identify as a woman. Put me out on the court. Let's watch his announcement video.
After careful consideration and reviewing the current eligibility guidelines, I am officially declaring myself a WNBA prospect.
Look at him. Listen to the voice. Come on now. Okay. If he goes out on that court and even bumps one of these women, she's getting knocked into next week.
Probably.
I mean that so seriously. And this is literally what people are advocating for. That biological men who self-identify as women just be allowed to compete against these girls. And we all know how it's going to go. We have to be, I don't even know, looking into a different world to think that the women are going to be able to compete against men like this. The WNBA would be gone in 0.2 seconds. If things like this are allowed. It'd be overtaken by biological men. But hey, I guess it's transphobic to say that.
If simply declaring who you are is all that's required, then I meet every single requirement necessary to compete in the WNBA. My team and I have carefully examined the WNBA's eligibility criteria and governing framework surrounding self-identification and inclusion. Based on the current guidelines, I can and am officially declaring my eligibility for the upcoming WNBA draft in May 2027. I am definitely not here to mock, make fun of, or disrespect any community or personal choices. I am simply asking that the current rules be applied equally to everyone. The rules that represent the very values many WNBA players and coaches have publicly advocated for. My team and I are prepared to ensure these guidelines are applied equally, consistently, and without exception. And I look forward to the WNBA honoring its stated principles. See you at training camp.
Not the stay tuned. Stay tuned. I like that he says he's not trying to mock or call out any particular community or alienate anybody. If you are an adult and you want to identify as trans and go through the transition and switch your pronouns and do all this stuff, you can do that within your personal life. But we do have to maintain the things that keep our society going and that protect the rights, the freedoms, the lives of both men and women under these circumstances. And one of those things.
Why do you think it is that we have the WNBA?
Because women wanted
could it be
to be able to play basketball in a
women
professional
weren't
sport.
allowed in the regular NBA?
Women weren't allowed to play competitive sports like professionally for a very, very long time.
Doesn't the National Basketball Association not inherently lean towards men, but just say we are the National Basketball Association and never allowed women on because they weren't able to compete with the men, so they had to make the WNBA?
I don't know the history of it really, but probably.
That feels like what must have happened. I mean, if you know the history, tell me below, but I feel like that's pretty much it. That's why I put the W on the beginning of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
if you
like
think
the
about
golf league.
Right, but how you don't see a female football league.
No,
Why?
because you don't have to put that it's a men's league in. You have the National Football League. You don't have the National Women's Football League.
But why do we have the WNBA and the NBA, but we have the NFL, but not the WNFL?
Women aren't likely to have as high contact or do as many risky things for a ball.
But they are in the WNBA.
No, because they don't do the dunks. They don't do as much aggressive gameplay.
That's very true. I don't really know the history of it. I don't know why we have the WNBA and not the WNFL.
Well, I'd assume because more women want to play basketball, which is usually a low-contact sport.
It's pretty high contact. I wouldn't say as much as football, though.
Where
Or
it's
hockey.
high contact. But there's women's hockey.
Have you ever heard of what they're called? That we have the
I was going to say,
the
literally...
NHL. Is it the WNHL?
Gosh, guys, baseball was so bad they didn't even bother putting girls on it. They call it softball.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot softer, even though it's pretty hard. It's also bigger, so it's easier to see.
That was a joke. Ha ha.
Ah.
Things that needs to be protected is women's sports. It won't be protected if Inez Cantor Freedom can declare himself a woman and then go out in the court. You thought that Caitlin Clark was getting her ass beat? These women would be getting their ass beat, and it would be by accident. Not on purpose like the women are doing right now in the WNBA. This is insane, but it is the natural conclusion of what a lot of people in the WNBA and out in the world are advocating for. They're advocating that biological men with their distinct biological advantages be able to compete against women. And
Have you seen the people, the gender activists who are responding to this, saying they're making fun of trans people, or they're not being sincere about being trans, or so you're saying this wasn't an issue about trans women. This is actually an issue of pathetic men. Yeah.
I mean,
identifying as trans. Yes.
It's not to make fun of the community at all. What it says is that the community is not being fair. He only asks for fairness.
When the only parameters of being a woman is being able to identify.
Saying you're one?
Yeah, just saying you're a woman and now you're a woman and then you can play in the WNBA. Don't be surprised when males take advantage of it. And we've been seeing that across the board with all different sports, female sports in this country alone. You've seen that happen. And the gender activists are like, oh, well, they're real trans women. They're sincere. These men are MAGA men and they're making fun of trans people. And it's like, no, they're doing exactly what all these other guys who are competing in women's sports are doing. They're just making a spectacle out of it because they want to make a mockery of the WNBA and their lack of guidelines. Yeah.
It will take it all the way to the, upper echelon of sports competition. And guess what? The women are not going to win. They are not going to win this battle whatsoever. I guess some of them will convince themselves that they are. Here's WNBA star Gabby Williams, who says it's okay, allow trans athletes to compete in the WNBA. Now, this comes on the heels of Sophie Cunningham of the Indiana Fever saying it's common sense. Men need to be separate. She got a lot of hate for that. She's called...
I just want to say one thing. I've been seeing this a lot in these quotes where they're saying trans people, trans athletes. It's not about trans men. No one's saying shit about trans men in sports.
Which means they also can't say it's about trans women. That's why they say trans people.
Why?
Because they're using protective language still.
They're trying to make it so it's like, it's the whole trans community instead of it's just men who identify as women.
Well, because they can't politically correctly say that. So instead they say trans people.
But why?
Why can't they say it? Because it just says it's not politically correct.
Well, why isn't it politically correct?
What do you mean why? You know why? Because they don't want you to have your own views. They want you to view them as they say, and that's it.
Why did they not just say trans women? Why did they say trans athletes?
Because if they just say trans women, then it sounds like you're sectioning off a portion of the group. And if you don't want to sound biased, then that's why they use such umbrella terms.
But nobody's complaining about trans men. They're just saying trans people as a whole as if that includes biological women identifying as men.
I guess additionally, the trans rainbow is so vast that it's easier to say people than to try and say these ones,
Yeah, but at this point, why not just say queer people?
I guess because that includes, by the language, the vernacular people accept today, queer is no longer accepted as a slang, so queer would consider people like you and me too. Even though we don't want it to, it would.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you can't also say no queers in basketball. That's definitely...
I mean, if you said no gays or no homos or no lesbians in the WNBA, that...
But do you know why they also don't say that?
But queer is like an ideological belief. It's political.
Because it's actually limiting... I said, do you know why they don't say that? And the answer is because that's actually limiting someone based on something they can't change and does not give them a benefit in the sport. A lady muff diving does not give her skill in basketball.
That's true.
But a man transitioning to a woman does give him an advantage in basketball. Therefore, the gay doesn't matter. The transitioning does. So when you refer to trans people, even if you were a female going to male and you wanted to compete on the female team still because you identify as a female then, even then, it would still be a problem because you'd have testosterone in more amounts than the women who are on the team.
Yeah.
So
even with hormone therapy.
No, they're not necessarily talking about the trans men, but it matters to some degree. What if those women want to compete with the women still?
They can't because they don't.
But what if they wanted to and had the same fight?
They would have to stop taking testosterone because that would be cheating. But apparently natural testosterone isn't cheating. I mean, I know there are women who naturally have high testosterone because of some sort of thing that they have going on with their body. Right, exactly. But they would still be disqualified because of the advantage. And yet, men are allowed to just say, I'm a lady, let me in, and they're allowed in. Wouldn't that be like sports doping, but like organically sports doping?
Yeah, you don't have to take anything then.
So that was something I don't understand. These people are
Or
fucking
alternatively,
insane.
you get the doctor to prescribe what you're using.
Transphobic. Her name is being, dragged through the dirt for saying that. It is common sense, I fear. Here's Gabby Williams saying, I guess it's not.
I think it's trans rights now is our new battle. That's what I think I was saying, that like the battles have changed.
Oh, yes.
You know, like our intentions been the same, but now that the environment has changed, we see trans people's rights being, you know, stripped away from them. There's a lot of discourse around trans athletes and what they can compete in. I would welcome a trans athlete on my team or against my team anytime. I don't think it's a problem in the world. It's just another way to kind of attack trans people. You know, we've seen players like Lasia Clarendon who stepped into that forefront and have been brave enough and courageous enough to kind of step up. So I guess that's the next battle that we have to fight as athletes.
If this is the battle that you're choosing,
As athletes, you have to fight the battle to allow men into your sports.
Girl, as an athlete, the only goal you have is to get your puck, your ball into the net, the hole, the score. Your only goal is to score. Nobody gives a crap about your politics, dude.
She's
the only reason
using
they do
that
is
same-
for media attention.
That same rhetoric, the same talking lines. You always hear the same sentences.
Well, she probably got that at one of the training camps she had to go to because she didn't want to compete against a man originally.
So, what rights are they losing?
The
Are you-
right to play basketball professionally because I started taking hormones that changed my body chemistry.
So, you mean the privilege of being able to compete on a women's team, even though you should not be allowed to compete on a women's team?
Again, I know I've said this before on the channel, so if you've been here, you've heard this before. I will never play professional women's basketball. I'm short. Nobody's taking anything from me. I couldn't have done it to begin with. Just like these men couldn't play men's basketball. No one's taking anything from you. In fact, you're taking things from other people.
Yeah. I mean, originally, the men who are playing in these women's sports, they already have a category they've been able to play in their whole lives.
And could have qualified for.
Yeah. But because they suck and because there's a lot of advantages of competing as a male in women's sports, they took the golden ticket, the liberal loophole, to compete against women. And anytime they compete against women, they win. They get money, they get trophies, they get the accolades,
People defending them, apparently.
they get the titles. Is that a right that is being stripped away
No.
if we say we don't want these guys who say they're women competing with women? Because the whole reason we have women's sports is so women could compete against other women instead of competing against men.
Women weren't competing against men. There was no
couldn't.
point.
They couldn't.
Well, there's
Right.
also no point.
If we took it to its logical conclusion, all women's sports would be filled with nothing but men who identify as women.
Women's sports would be who can cook the casserole the fastest.
It would be baking.
It'd be
competition.
housewife.
It'd be supermarket sweep.
Like you're taking away an opportunity from women. I know you don't care, but women do. So stop it.
I don't think you're going to be an athlete for much longer. These teams are going to be done, again, in the snap of a finger with men being allowed to compete against these women. Now, I did look into the eligibility guidelines that Inez Cantor Freedom was talking about in his video that apparently safeguard his ability to be a WNBA
yeah.
prospect. Now, this is from the Washington Times. It says the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement does not contain a self-identification standard, that the 409-page agreement states only that, quote, only players who are women are eligible to play in the WNBA. It does not define a woman or address gender identity anywhere in the document. So you kind of are leaving it as an open season for men to declare themselves a woman and to compete against these biological women. And we have to just accept that there are differences. Or we're just going to watch those differences play out with little schemes like this. And you know what? I don't know whether or not I want this to be fulfilled and I want him to go on to compete against these women. It would be something to watch. It would be something to see. But can we just for a moment accept the reality of things and move on as a society from this argument? Because we all know what the reality is, I think, deep down. You have to be just closing your eyes, covering your ears to not know.
Well, the problem is that I don't think any other female sports team has been as supportive of men competing with women as WNBA. They're very gender ideologically captured.
Yeah, I
Very
agree.
much so.
Not that I've seen. I mean, maybe like the PGA, but I also don't pay attention to that.
But anytime I've been online for years looking this stuff up, and it's always the WNBA that has some sort of issue when it comes to the gender stuff, particularly when we're talking about men who identify as women competing against women in sports.
Is that why
Women's
they were
sports.
getting dildoed for so long? Because they're just like dildos?
Because they're a laughing stock. It's easy to mock them because they're so ridiculous. They believe ridiculous things. They act ridiculous. It's like a two-tiered justice system when it comes to like penalties and who gets penalized and who doesn't. They talk about race all the time as well. So it's very politically captured by left-wing politics. People make fun of it. It gets more attention when people are making fun of them than when they do something amazing, which never happens. Because they don't do anything amazing. Maybe amazingly stupid, like saying things like that. That's the only attention they ever get.
Well, Caitlin Clark was getting a lot of attention for a minute.
She was, and she was also getting a lot of attention for being constantly attacked on the court and no penalties being called. And then Sophie Cunningham comes in and she tries to defend her, and she gets penalized, harassed, and hurt on the court by the opposing team because of whatever political belief she holds that they don't agree with. You know,
Crazy.
it's WNBA is nothing more than a laughingstock.
Clown world.
That biological men shouldn't be competing against women. Now, Inez Cantor Freedom is not the only former WNBA player coming forward to say, I'm going to join the WNBA draft. Okay, here's Royce White.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, I made the announcement. I'm transgender. I'm a woman. I identify as sometimes identifying as a woman for purposes of basketball, professional basketball. So I'll be declaring for the WNBA draft in 2027 as well. Well, I mean, I think I'd be unstoppable. You know, but I'm a team first guy. You know, I'm a pass first kind of player. I do the little things. You know, I led my team in all 5 major stat categories at Iowa State University. So I do a little bit of everything. I'll do whatever the coach needs me to do. I'll do whatever the girls need me to do. I think the WNBA could come out and make a definitive statement about guys with a pair of balls playing in the women's association. But you know, hey, that'd be probably too much like right. So, and I don't want to be discriminated against. No, I want fair treatment. I'm a young black, hopefully United States senator that would like a fair chance to participate as a sometimes identifying as a transgender woman athlete.
Let him on the court. Let him on the court. See what happens. He did say he would be unstoppable. He would literally.
The kids call it gender fluid, but I support your cause. The cause is not to get into the basketball game. The cause is to change the regulations so they cannot get into these basketball games. They don't actually want to play. They want to change the rules so that only women can play.
So instead,
They're actually
what they're
more
going to do
pro-women.
is exploit the rules.
They're actually more pro-women than the women on these teams are.
People online who are against these guys are saying things like, oh, I thought they didn't want men in women's sports. And now they're going to try to compete against women by saying they're trans. And it's like, I think with people...
You almost got it, guys.
With people like us and Amala and those 2 NBA players and so on and so forth who are against males competing against females in sports. We've been seeing the WNBA do this whole gender
song and dance
for years. After the Sophie Cunningham thing coming out against men in female sports, and then the coaches wearing the trans shirts, and then some of the other WNBA players coming out and saying we should have trans women playing with us or against us. After that, I think what happened for a lot of us was we're like, at this point, let them. If you want to be a freaking joke, let's watch you be the joke.
Well, yeah, and I don't hold any hatred for people like this because even though I may not have done what they do and I may not agree with how they're doing it, their goal is to change the way things are being done that they disagree with.
You're talking about the 2 WNBA players?
Yeah, I may not agree, like, hey, you probably still shouldn't do this, not in a rude way, but like, hey, you probably still shouldn't do this. But your point is valid, and I agree with what your sentiment is. It sucks that you have to do it to get anywhere in this battle.
Does it really suck, though? Because they're getting a shit ton of attention for it.
For us, for women, yeah, it sucks.
It sucks, but it doesn't really suck for the women on the WNBA who are pro men and female sports.
No, it sucks for the people
who haven't spoken out against it?
Yes.
Well, they didn't speak out against it, right? It's been years. If you haven't spoken out against it yet, you are a coward and you deserve these men taking your freaking trophies and shit like that. If you're going to be the WNBA and be so pro, even though we have given you so many freaking facts about how men competing in women's sports is not only dangerous but unfair. You're still going on with this. After so many years, we're just like, if you want this so bad, have it. So we can laugh at you. We've been doing it the whole time, laughing at you, thinking you're ridiculous. You're still pushing for this nonsense that it's an 80-20 issue or a 90-10 issue. Well, then we want to see you put your money where your mouth is And we want to see these guys compete with you. Prove to us that there is no difference biologically between men and women by having these guys compete with you or against you in the WNBA.
She agrees.
She seconds that emotion.
Unstoppable. And you know what? The irony is, I think if these former NBA players who are coming out of the woodwork actually went and played for the WNBA, they'd probably be a whole lot nicer to each other than these women are to each other. Have you seen how they're treating each other? Have you seen how Caitlin Clark is being treated? Maybe they need some male energy out on that court to just regulate whatever is happening out there right now. But that's a whole nother video for a whole different day. Now, Royce,
I'll tell you one thing. You won't see these guys being bullied on the court like the...
Oh, yeah, they won't take it. Yeah.
They won't be able to.
No.
They will... These women will try to push them around like they do with Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham.
And fail.
They will fail. It will be hilarious to see them try to body check them and get knocked the out because they're trying to body check a brick wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
White also posted this. I haven't even been publicly trans for 72 hours and I'm already getting so much hate. I just want to hoop with my girls in my feminine era. Why can't y'all be happy for me?
Goes on between hockey and basketball. Oh, nice move there.
Just let him hoop with his ladies. Let him hoop with his girls. Guys, how many more times does this need to happen? I can think of several sports where we've already seen a man come forward and, pun intended, dunk on women whilst identifying as one. We've seen it in volleyball. We've seen it in swimming, surfing, soccer, already, skating, you name it. We've seen this come to fruition time and time again. Now, people will retort back and say that this is a non-issue. And essentially the argument that they're making is this is not really happening all that often. So that's to acknowledge that this shouldn't be happening. But the issue is just so small that we don't even need to address it. Okay. Well,
okay. Though that doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of issues that rarely happen, but we have laws for now, don't we?
Dismissing.
How many times has your house been broken in and yet you still have a lock?
I know they're lies. They just want you to shut up.
But we can't.
Well, if it shouldn't be happening, it shouldn't be happening. And if you do have loopholes in your system right now that would allow Inez Cancer Freedom and Royce White to play against these women, maybe we need to close those loopholes off. Simple as that. And if you get called a transphobe for saying what is true, so be it. Be called a transphobe. And you will watch as women like WNBA player Gabby Williams come forward with their own suicidal empathy and to their own detriment advocate for policy and eligibility guidelines that would mean the end of their career in the WNBA if enough men took advantage of what they're advocating for.
These women,
it's all true.
These women are like complete hypocrites. They're just so complete hypocrites. It's hilarious.
You gotta wonder if they realize they'd lose their positions, their jobs, their livelihood, their fame if they, I don't know, followed through on the things they're saying they wanted.
Do you think? Do you think they think that?
I don't think they do. I don't think they realize that they would lose so much by supporting this.
You don't think that these women who support men and women's sports believe that they would completely be eradicated from the
I feel like they genuinely think it's a non-issue, either because they were told that or because they've heard it said so many times. Because if not, why would you advocate so strongly for someone taking your job?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense because they'll complain to the hills and back about men taking their jobs.
Women's opportunities.
Women.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then they can do
I don't
it.
think they've thought that far through. They just know that this is what
dumb.
This is what good people say. I said it. I'm a good person. They don't think, wait, what if they take my job?
But what happened to believe the science? No, they don't believe in certain science?
Because science is feelings now because everything religion.
But it wasn't during COVID. What happened?
COVID. I'm not saying genuinely, but I think people went real cuckoo during COVID.
Yeah, it's definitely, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
It's just ridiculous. And sometimes you need to see what a 7-foot-tall man declare himself a woman to understand just how wrong this is. It shouldn't take that. We shouldn't need that. And we certainly shouldn't need it to happen twice in the span of 24 hours for us to understand that this is not the reality that we want. But here we are, guys. I'd love to hear.
Okay, I just want to show this one thing before we close out the video because it's really, really funny.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. He got his wig, everybody.
Aw. Good for him.
He got his wig. He passes just as well as majority of men who say they're women. And this is a fact. Because, like, a lot of trans women say that they pass Well, that's because a lot of their friends who are women or just women in general tell them that they passed because they don't want to hurt their feelings or they don't want to get them mad because they've seen trans women freakouts before and it's very scary. But it's actual factual, if you look it up, that majority of trans women don't pass. So he passes just as well as the normal trans woman these days.
There's a friend of mine who's a old guy liberal. I showed him It's Ma'am today.
He never saw it before?
No. He goes, that is one crazy person. And I said, yes. Because he was asking me why some people, like not why, but how some people will react to people getting misgendered. Because him and I collectively know someone. I was like, this individual does not respond negatively because they know reality and how they seem to people. So, and I'm saying they not to give them like gender credit because I don't want people to know who this is. So he was asking why we would expect anything different. And I said, a lot of these types have become more commonplace. And so to see someone who is maybe not as crazy, wants you to do something different, but doesn't force you to do it, is more wow than the alternative of someone crashing out because you didn't say the right thing. I think that It's Ma'am video, if you haven't watched it recently, the full one, it's a perfect example because the person behind the counter is like, I'm sorry, I said you guys because you guys came in together. Let me try and get my corporate number for you. I didn't mean to offend you. And this dude's like, let's take it outside. Make it ma'am outside.
Then he pushed all the stuff
He kicked it
inside
all
the
down.
store. Yeah.
He said he was going to tell the entire LGBTQ community, and then they'd lose business. And then it was interesting because the older liberal who I know said to me, not everyone in the LGBT agrees with what he is, though. And I said,
That's
that is
true.
correct.
That's
because
true.
this old liberal I know is old enough to remember feminists that didn't want men around at all.
Didn't matter what they identified as.
No, definitely not. Oh, to them, never.
Exactly.
Never. And that's why I like some older liberals because there's a certain cusp that you have to fall within to be like still logical enough to be like,
Right.
do I still support their right to live their life? Yes, but why are they crazy?
Because they want to infringe on the rights of
Yes.
others, specifically
Yes.
women. And that's all we have to say about that, everybody. Comment below if you have any videos you want us to react to, or if you have any disagreements or agreements you want to share, any good arguments you want to share. Also,
Say hi to Phoenix in the comments. She was here this time.
so shout out to the Analytical Observers and DNG 7835 for being a blue and a yellow alert member for our memberships. It keeps our channel going. Thank you for all our members for being members. We love you.
Love.
Bye.
Bye.
Crawling